Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue, The Uncanny X-Men 212. Wonderful cover by Barry Windsor Smith. Wolverine versus Sabretooth, round one, because round two will be in the next issue. Now, this cover I love so much, except for one thing, and I'm going to tell you what it is in just a moment. I, when you see a full pose, I know it's minute. I actually don't like that it doesn't fit in there. I would have when he sketched it, not when he was doing all this thing. When he sketched it, I probably would have moved this foot just so that you actually get the foot in there. I don't know. It's always bothered me. I actually have done a redraw on this cover kind of a thing, and I actually have the foot in the picture because I don't know, I just uh, when you're trying to draw, it's one thing if you're only drawing part of the body, then by all means, but when you are doing the full figure, I don't know. I don't like it. There's an issue with John Byrne that he did with the I'm sorry, not Fantastic Four, with the Silver Surfer, and it was a splash page at the very end, and he put the Silver Surfer too far on one side, and he actually cuts the hand off. And I don't know, when you're doing a full figure shot, I always say, and I know he's a master, and Barry Windsor Smith has, I believe he's retired now, but I've always thought, just get the whole thing. If your intention is to do the full figure, then get the full figure in, and either a do him smaller, which I don't think is necessary, but if you just move the this leg up a little bit, um, just enough so that you could get the foot, that to me would be um, the way to go. But regardless, this is a fantastic cover. Um, and this is to me prime X-Men. This is my I was 12 years old. I was in middle school when this landed. And so the last run, Rick Leonardi is the penciler for this issue, and Rick Leonardi will have a couple issues as guest penciler um, throughout the X Men, and this is his first one. So we're in New York City, and in the tunnels of the Morlocks, and here are all the dead. The last run starring the Uncanny X Men and Wolverine having to go through these bodies. Chris Claremont, writer, Rick Leonardi, guest artist, Dan Green, by the way, rest in peace, Dan Green. Glynis Oliver, colorist, Tom Rozakowski, one of the greatest letterers, top three in my opinion. Anna Senti and Jim Shooter, by the way, who passed away a couple weeks ago as of this recording. Rest in peace, my man. So here comes Wolverine here. I always thought that Rick Leonardi should have gotten X-Men job because he does such a beautiful job. Been a long time since I saw Slaughter like this. Professional work, top notch, as thorough as it was merciless. And so he's looking at her locket. That sounds rats, and so he scares them away. But he says, wasted effort. They're just doing what comes natural to them. Soon as I'm gone, they'll be back. Too many bodies with no one, no place, no time to bury them. And so Betsy Braddock, who will be joining the X Men next issue, appears in his head, which startles him. And she says, "It's Bessie Braddock. I'm called Psylocke. I'm a telepath. Storm asked me to mind link with you so you could you could pass along a report." And so, real quick, I have a playlist that for the New Mutants, which I started with the graphic novel and then number one, and am uh, covering. I cover everything in reading order. So I have her first appearance in her sort of not really her first appearance, but her first U.S. appearance, which is New Mutants Annual number 2. She has appeared before that in a UK. Captain Brenda Allen Moore, I believe, had written. Um, I have a X-Men playlist, which started with classic X-Men number 1 and now am current through here. And then I have an X Universe playlist where I put everything together. So I've got New Mutants, I've got the X-Men, I've got X Factor. I also have a playlist with X Factor. I've got Wolverine limited series, so Kitty Pryde and the Wolverine, the Marvel fanfares, all sorts of stuff, everything in a reading order. So lots of playlists. This era of X-Men is my one of my absolute favorites. So read them all the time as a kid here. Wolverine says, "Stay out of my thoughts, darling. They ain't pretty. Tell her it's as bad as can be. I found no survivors. Marauder scents are all stale. I figure they're all long gone." And Psylocke says, "Storm wants a prisoner for interrogation. That's vitally important." And she says, "I'll get her one, but one is all she's going to get. The rest are mine." And she says, "I understand." And Wolverine says, "A high class babe like you, that'll be the day. Stumble across some friends of the X-Men, a kid group called Power Pack, but I shoot 'em safely home." And that was in Power Pack 29, which I have not, nor am I planning on covering it, at least as of this time. Wolverine, "I am terribly worried about Storm." And Wolverine says, "Don't be." And she says, "But," and Wolverine says, "You're a stranger. You've only just met the X-Men. Speak when you know what you're talking about. Storm's tough. She'll do fine. I gotta go, girl. I got work to do. I'll be in touch." And so with that, Wolverine leaves. And of course, she was using Cerebro, and she's like, "Of all the conceited, arrogant, bloody fools, probably is, do I mean Wolverine or myself? I'm exhausted, and my poor skull is pounding fit to burst. There's a psionic barrier surrounding the Morlock tunnels. If I hadn't used Cerebro here to amplify my power, I doubt I could have made contact. As it is, I daren't try too often. I might burn out the computer system or my own brain. All those poor people murdered," she keeps thinking. "Can those few in the school infirmary be the only survivors?" And so, in New Mutants 46, which I have covered, showed the X-Men setting up the infirmary and everything and arriving. And so we've got Moira McTaggart here, and this is the nurse, Sharon. We've got Callisto here, and of course we've got Magneto. I say Magneto, not Magneto. And so Sharon says, "I'm sorry, Dr. McTaggart, he is gone." And Storm just kind of looking very um, sad, or at least disappointed, mostly in herself, af everything, because she is the leader of the Morlocks. And McTaggart, oh, sorry, McTaggart, she says, "It's all right, Sharon. Let's cover him up and clear him out. We need the space." And Sharon says, "We're losing so many." Of course, Magneto says, "This happens in war." And Moira says, "We're not equipped to handle this, Magneto. These people should be in a hospital." Oh, that was the nurse. And Callisto says, "We're muted, Sharon. What hospital would take us? And how many normal people would risk their lives to protect us when the Marauders show up to finish the job?" And so Callista continues, we're outcasts. The Morlocks had no place in surface society. We went underground, made the deep tunnels our home because we thought we'd be happy and safe. Should have known better. And of course, Storm looks at Nightcrawler, who was injured a previous issue, and Storm thinks the X-Men are a little different. We stand as humanity's defenders, yet we too feel forced to hide behind the some people say facade, I say facade of Xavier's school. Look at me, Nightcrawler. Say a word, please. Smile. I need your laughter. So, Storm is feeling so defeated. Um, this is also, and I made mention of it last year. John Romita Jr. is gone, so we are going to have a bunch of filling artists until Mark Silvestri eventually takes over. But believe it or not, the X Men did not have anybody ready to go. At least I feel, in my opinion, because we have Rick Leonardi this issue, Alan Davis next issue, then Barry Windsor Smith, then Alan Davis again, then Jackson Geis. I think he is there. Um, 2 issues, then Brett Blevins, then Mark Silvestri, but then somebody else, and but then Mark Silvestri will eventually become the main guy. But it just so many issues, so many fill-in artists, and you would have thought someone would have been ready to go and jump at it. So Storm asks, "How is Kitty Colossus?" And he says, "Alive. That makes her luckier than most," he says. And Storm asks, "No improvements?" And Colossus says no. So Kitty Pryde is stuck kind of as a ghost. Um, and Colossus says, Morris says Shadow Count is in a state of permanent phase. In effect, Kitty has become a living ghost. Who were those butchers, Storm? Why did they do this? And she says, Wolverine will find out. And Colossus, who's extremely angry, says, I live for that moment, to find them and crush them as I did Riptide, the one who struck down Nightcrawler. And she says, she thinks here, Peter was the gentlest of ghosts, yet now he dreams of vengeance. And I, who swore never to kill, I led the X-Men to this. And then she leaves. Bright lady, what have I done? And Magneto calls for her, but to no avail. And Colossus says, I will follow to make certain she is all right. This is not a time for any of us to be alone. And Callisto says, watch out for yourself, big guy. You ain't looking so hot either. So, Storm is running away, essentially. So, she runs to the ground, gets to the lake, and she jumps. She is powerless during this era, and so she lands in there and starts to swim. And so in comes Betsy Braddock, and she says, hello, Colossus, his thoughts so disjointed in pain. Miss Braddock, I, Ororo, she is lost, I, help me. And he falls right on top of her, and she calls out his name. And then we have Tom Corsi. He's a former police officer who is we met in the New Mutants. And he says, think the Marauders will hit us? And she says, Rogue says, sooner or later, Mr. Corsi, that's why we're standing guard. And then Psylocke says, Rogue, the headmaster study, it's Colossus. Come at once, an emergency. And so Rogue leaves Thomas alone. She says, if anybody but Wolverine shows up, treat him as hostile. So she goes through, and she thinks Petey was hurt in the fight. So hard to tell when he's armored. No wonder he hasn't shifted back to human sense. Must be bad. Hope it ain't. Body count's too high already. We've been forced to use the hangar here as a temporary morgue, and it's nearly full. And so she arrives, and he goes, um, "You conscious, Bets? Is he still alive?" And she says, "Yes, to both. Thank heaven." So she kind of picks up, and he's like a statue. How about I absorb his power, revert him back to human? And Betsy says, "No, that will kill him for certain." Rogue, I sense Storm by the lake. Um, you all do what you can for Petey. I'll corral the boss. And so Callisto asks Psylocke if she's hurt, and she says yes. Probably your ribs, couple three, right side, nothing crucial. And she's like, how very reassuring. And so Wolverine coming through here, he goes, Psylocke, third time I've called without an answer. Betsy must be offline. Throw out the mansion, maybe. The Marauders hit us there. If they did, nothing I can do about it. Too many trails here. Take forever to follow them all. Another X Factor track mixed with the Marauder sense and live Morlocks. Cyclops, Angel, Beast, the original. They were the original X-Men. So how come they're part of this X Factor outfit whose job is hunting down mutants? Whose side are they on anyway? And then he goes, Blazes. There it is again. A female scent I know as well as I do my own, but it can be. So during this time, the X-Men do not know that Jean Grey has returned. So Wolverine just doesn't think that's possible, or that she's back, because he doesn't know. And he goes, gotta be my mistake. Suddenly he's hit from behind, slash, and off he goes. And I love this. Damn. And so Rogue is looking for Storm, and Storm just wants to die, and she's like, just leave me be. And she's like, Goddess, my bright lady of the earth and sky, tell me why. And she sees her clothes. Must everything I care for be destroyed? Is that to be the achievement of my life? I thought myself strong enough to withstand anything, and most of all, to bear the burden of the X-Men's lives and future. I am a fool, as she discards her clothes. Now, I love this. Not only is she in silhouette, but they leave her hair white so you can see it. And then they make sure to leave enough detail so that you can tell. So it doesn't. This is just very well done to be able to see things. I don't know how Frank Miller would have done this. Frank Miller just she'd be all black. I think he would have left the hair, but I don't know about things. I think he would have had all these things blended with her. And so at the mansion here, Psylocke wonders about Colossus, and he says, no heartbeat, not the slightest physical sign of life, but that's normal when he's in armored form. And so she says, let me try a psi probe. That was Psylocke. And she says, he's alive, but only just if something isn't done quickly. And Mora says, I'm open to suggestions, but what you use are my medicines or my skill in a body made of steel. Now, real quick, she was brought in New Mutants 46 as well. Ileana went and got her. Now, Moira McTaggart is not an MD. And I know that they use this as a thing here where but she's not an MD. She's a she has a PhD, but not an MD. But here they're using her as a medicine, and she's not. So anyway, Colossus. I'm sorry. Magneto says, you forget Dr. Steele. Even Colossus's unique organic variety is a ferrous compound, and as such, susceptible to my magnetic powers. First, we must ascertain the severity of his injuries. So, he's gonna kind of, I think, turn him human. And so, it says here, he cannot bleed in the accepted human says, Magneto says softly. Instead, he loses energy. Though those blast points, his condition is far worse than I suspected. It's a miracle he has survived this long. Can you help? Asks McTaggart. He says, perhaps. But if any of you know any prayers, and so I love the breaking of the panels. It's really one big panel here, but I love how they're broken up here. I love the color choices of the yellows here. After this, Colossus is going to be taken out of commission for a while. So it will be quite a few issues. Quite. It's going to be quite a few years, actually, before Colossus returns. And he goes, so Magneto is exhausted here. You see Moira goes, easy, Magneto, rest easy. You've done all you could. And he says, but it wasn't enough. And see for yourself. And so he moves his neck. He goes, doctor, help me. Why can't I move? And Magneto says, I don't understand. Colossus should be fully recovered, not paralyzed. I could have made a mistake. I was so careful. I tried so hard. How could this have happened? And so here, Sabretooth says, you ought to be ashamed, bub. And he goes, I know that voice. Figured he'd be here. This massacres are his stock and trade. I've had more trouble taking out rank amateurs. From a pro like you, Wolverine, I expect better. And this is pretty cool here. And he says, life is full of little disappointments. And so Colossus has the Morlock healer. And Sabretooth, sorry, I keep saying Colossus. Sabretooth, he says, you shrimp were always mine. And Wolverine says, glad to see you too, Sabretooth. Been a while. So Wolverine knows that the healer is very important, so he needs to find a way to save him here. And Sabretooth says, and here I was figuring the parties passed me all by when all of a sudden, look who stumbles across my very doorstep. Oh, very wasn't there. Sorry. I must live right. That'll be the day you're part of this. And he says, yep, Mr. Sinister's dealing a game that don't allow for wild cards like the Morlocks or you ex-chumps either. So he sent the Marauders to resolve the situation. Because we're the very best at what we do. Like you used to be. Could have chopped you as smooth as sin while you were daydreaming, bub. But where's the sport in that? When I kill you, Logan, old son, I want you to see it coming. And so he pops his claws and says, talk is cheap, bub. Show me. Chris Claremont, I as much as I complain about how wordy he is, that mother effer can write. And he can, he was at peak. So it took a while after John Byrne left. It took a while for him to get going again. But this Mutant Massacre is definitely one of those things here. So, all right. So notice that there's this storm raging here. So, Callista tells Rogue, head back to the mansion, Rogue. I'll find Storm and bring her home if that's what she really wants. And so she takes off her jacket and she says, when you see her, Cal, will you return this to her? Vest her badge of office. I wore one like it. Aurora won leadership from the Morlocks away from me. Be a real kick if tonight I took the X-Men from her. And so she has changed and wearing a dress here. And Callista shows up and says, very pretty, but not your style. And she says, let me pass, Callisto, let me go. I've done enough, suffered enough. And Callista says, not hardly. Please let someone else lead the X-Men. And Callista says, you feel that way? Why'd you take the job in the first place? And she says, I thought I was needed. Who knows? Perhaps I still am. As a grave digger, she says. Oh, by the way, I had said that this was Rick Leonardi's first filling job, and I was incorrect. X-Men 201 was. For some reason, I forgot that. So, anyway, Callisto punches her and says, "Poor baby, you figured you're the only one who's had it rough? Guess again, Wind Rider. Open your eyes. We've all been hurt, and thing will probably get worse a whole lot before it's over." So these two are sort of gonna start fighting. Life for Morlocks and the X-Men both will never be the same, but no way will I abandon the ones who are left. And Storm kind of pushes her away and says, "I can give no more, Callisto. I have nothing left." And Storm runs away here with Callisto chasing her. And Callisto says, they're my people, like the X-Men are yours. They put their trust in us. That makes us obliged to be true to them in return, no matter what. You can run from me, Ororo. What about yourself?" And so Callisto catches up to her and she says, "Leave me alone." And she says, "Make me. My life is my own. I will live it as I please." You lost that privilege, same as I did, the day you donned this vest. So, all right, back in the tunnel, though, we have another confrontation with the poor healer not being able to heal himself, apparently. And so, love the taste of blood, boy, says Sabretooth, especially yours. You're fast. I'm faster. You're strong. I'm stronger. I'm stronger. You kill. I'm a killer. So that was Sabretooth here. Your fancy claws can't cut what they can't hit. And your hotsy totsy healing factor won't save you when I rip out your heart. Oh, so well done. Cute, says Wolverine as he avoids Sabretooth. But no cigar. He goes, "What are you doing? Bringing down the house. Tunnel was weak. Figured I couldn't take much to collapse it." And so he goes, "We ain't finished, boy. You and me, not by a long shot." And Wolverine says, "Maybe not, but this fight is." And Wolverine says, "By the time you dig through or find your way around, we'll be long gone and safe." You're right, Sabretooth. You're the killer. I'm a man who sometimes kills. It shows the evolution of Wolverine and the X-Men. So we're too evenly matched. We could have fought till doomsday with neither of us winning. In younger days, I'd have given that a shot. For the fun, just like Sabretooth, road was easier. But that's the past. I've changed. I've learned about honor. A hard road more often than not. And Wolverine picks up the healer and takes him home. And as he walks, he says, "But worth the effort." And so we will continue with Wolverine and Sabretooth in the next issue. So, and now Storm says, "I have no right to lead the X-Men." And Callisto says, "You have no right not to. You punk out. If you rabbit, what's that say to Colossus and Nightcrawler and Shadowcats, the ones who died and the ones still hanging on? If the X-Men, if the dream they and Xavier's school embody aren't worth fighting for, why the blisses did they shed their blood? That's the debt that can't be welched on." And she says, "Why do you care about them, me? I thought you would be happy to see me fall, take my place." He says, "Me too. Life's chock full of surprises. Don't fret, though. We're still rivals. Someday, to take back leadership of the Morlocks, I may well kill you, but I've also come to respect you, Ororo, and of yourself." And Wolverine makes his way through, and Rogue welcomes him, and he says, "Brought a present, darling. The healer's weak, but raring to help. Moira could sure use it." And Wolverine says, "You're Rogue. I thought these Morlock tunnels were posted off limits to the New Mutants." And she says, "They are. Well, I've been picking up the kid's scents ever since we left the city. I'd have checked them out, but getting the healer here had a priority. Nova's team's no match for the Marauders. That's for sure, huh?" And suddenly, everybody undercover, and there's all this fire here. Energy wave felt the atmospheric overpressure a split second before it hit. Lucky I'm as fast as I'm gorgeous. Careful, Wolverine, it's red hot. And she says, "The tunnel's scoured clean. As far as the eyes can see, Wolvie, the kids We're 40 miles from Manhattan. This heat pulse reached us, so it stands to reason it filled the entire Morlock tunnels as well. If the mutants were anywhere inside the tunnel it hit, they're dead. So the what happened here will be covered in Thor 374. I actually have already done that because I have a Walter Simonson Thor playlist, so those issues already have been. But Thor essentially um, burns the bodies down, give them a proper like warrior send off. So that's what happened. And then next issue will be Psylocke. So and then Wolverine and Sabretooth round number 2. So awesome stuff. Uncanny X-Men 212 by Chris Claremont, Rick Leonardi, with inks by Dan Green. Like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.